Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Aussie Starcraft here, bringing you a continuation in our casting of IEM Cologne. As you know, it's an awesome tournament that took place very recently. Currently, we're casting the semi-finals between our red Zerg in the bottom right-hand corner. That's right, EG's Jaedong. Top left-hand corner of Heavy Rain, as our blue Protoss player, it's going to be LiquidHero. So it's a fantastic series. This is actually Game 4 of the series, taking place here on Heavy Rain. Now, for those of you who haven't seen the first 3 games, they are all available here on the channel. So some links will be down in the video description down below. Feel free to check those out. They've been a pretty interesting series. Certainly not the style of play we're used to seeing from these two players. Did start out with some interesting shenanigans, but Game 3 saw a return to a much more conventional playstyle from both our players. Unfortunately for Jaedong, our man in blue, LiquidHero, currently in the lead at 2 games to 1. We'll see if Jaedong can equalize things here in game number 4, or whether LiquidHero is going to take this game and progress on to the grand finals. So will be a Protoss versus Zerg, and super excited to see this match take place here on Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain's been the site of many epic conflicts here in IEM Cologne thus far. It's actually quite an interesting map for a number of reasons. The locations of bases combined with this rather interesting canyon that runs up the middle of the map makes for some quite interesting conflicts. Protoss can use this to great advantage. Zerg unfortunately find it a little bit harder to get the surrounds that they need due to the fact units need to travel a much greater distance to try to surround it. It's much different to, say, Belshire Vestige, that while similar in size had many sort of interlocking avenues of assault. Makes it a little bit tougher for Zerg players, but there are, because of the relatively short rush distances, some rather interesting timings that Zerg can in fact do on the map. Looks like Jaedong actually going to go straight for an expand here. He's thrown down his natural expansion. Actually may well be going for a third base. We have this drone heading down. Indeed, he is going to throw down a very quick third hatchery. So before the 3-minute mark, Jaedong in fact has 3 hatches down. Looks like Jaedong's going for a very greedy economic build here. On the other hand, Hero going for a rather conventional gateway expand. We have the gateway and cyber core down, and we have a probe scout heading out now. So fairly regular timing on this scout. Protoss players tend to throw that scout out generally around the time the cyber core goes down and or is completed. We have the next probe being rallied down to this natural expansion, showing that Hero planning to expand off the back of this. Not going to go for some sort of 4-gate timing attack. Instead going to be going for the more conventional gateway expand here, and that's going to put him on a similar economic footing to Jaedong for the next couple of minutes. Though of course Jaedong has expanded quite hungrily, so we'll see just how Hero responds to this. The emphasis is on Hero to in fact try and exploit the greed of Jaedong. If he doesn't react to this very quick expansion of Jaedong, he will tend to get buried under a pile of Roach Hydra, as Roach Hydra on 3 bases does tend to bury any long time 2-base planning the Protoss tends to have. So the emphasis really on the Protoss player to try and do some damage early on. We have a pylon down on the low ground. It's going to allow Hero to begin walling in here. Wouldn't be surprised to see a few gateways thrown down here. Jaedong, great idea what's going on. Overlord here sitting in a nice position. Going to pick up the time of those 2 gateways going down. And we even have a few Zerglings moving out here, actually trapping this first Zealot of LiquidHero. So Hero wanting to do some damage with an early Zealot and Mothership Core, but unfortunately these early Zerglings from Jaedong are going to force that right away. We have 1 Queen's already popped out, 2 more Queens now coming, 1 finished at the natural, and 3rd base already on the way. So 5.5 minutes, we have 3 Queens on the field, and already up to 24 Harvesters for Jaedong. You'll note that Hero's likewise pretty close with 23, and this Mothership Core is going to get driven away by the Queen in the main base. So actually Jaedong trying to move a Queen across to try and catch this Mothership Core on retreat. Any damage that you can do to this, very important. Mothership Core particularly useful for Protoss attacks. They tend to advance with the Mothership Core, try to pack a bit of damage, and then evacuate themselves as soon as that Mothership Core and the army is under threat. But with a bit of damage already taken, it's a little bit more risky for Hero to try those sorts of plays. These Zerglings going to continue moving their way around the map. Actually going to intercept this probe, unfortunately. They were on the move command, but Jaedong has wised up to the presence of that probe. I actually have 3 Zealots already on the way down, so Zealot's going to join up with this Mothership Core, and the probe's going to throw down a pylon before these Zerglings can actually prevent it from doing. So Mothership Core going to be protecting that, and actually these Zealots, ooh, nice micro from Jaedong, does manage to clean up the probe. The rest of the Zerglings do go down. But Jaedong here at the third base is going to be throwing down some static defense. We have one Spine Crawler already in place, 2 Queens as well, and a second Spine Crawler coming up. So Jaedong going to have plenty to try and push these 3 Zealots back. Time Warp going down there on the ramp going to allow those Zealots to do a lot of work with these Zerglings. We have Zerglings going down left, right, centre. Another 5 Zealots actually being warped down. So we have heroes throwing down quite a few gateways, up to 4 gates now. And we have quite a heavy-handed Zealot approach here from LiquidHero. Luckily, these 2 Spine Crawlers are going to help protect this third base. We have 5 Roaches just popping down, another Roach on the way as well. These Roaches are very important against the Zealots. They can kite the Zealots all day long on the creep, but want to be careful before getting too far off the creep, as they can get caught and decimated by the Zealots. Most people do think of Roaches as an ideal counter to Zealots, and that's true to an extent, particularly on creep. But what's less well known is when unupgraded, a Zealot can actually kill a Roach one-on-one. So do have to be careful with these Roaches, particularly off creep without the speed upgrade. And looks like Hero just committing to this early aggression, really wants to punish Jaedong, but unlike the previous games, Jaedong being very careful about this, throwing down a lot of static defense at this vulnerable third base, and just doing his very best to ensure that Hero can't exploit these earlier timing attacks. On the back of this, we do have a Robo going down in the main of Hero. And these Roaches actually being caught by the force fields, and this is what we mean, that Zealot's actually able to chew through these quite quickly. Forge going down for upgrades for Hero, but currently the upgrades are 0 all. There's actually no Evo chambers yet on the way for Jaedong. One getting thrown down literally as we say it, and all the gas for Jaedong being taken now. So Jaedong's going up. Oh, actually the gas in the main still not taken just yet, but a big wave of drones, 8 drones, and the Roach speed upgrade as well as the Zergling speed on the way. So looks like Hero is going to start the +1 weapons upgrade. Super important, particularly for Zealots against Zerglings, as those Zealots will kill the Zerglings in 2 hits. So Overlord's going to get a big scout off, going to spot the upgrade and the robotics facility straight away. Unfortunately, the Overseer does look like it'll go down. Oh no, actually does manage to make it out, dropping a Changeling buying it the second he needs to float his way off the map. We have +1 missile attacks on the way as well, and a macro hatch coming down at the natural expansion. So we have a hallucinated Oracle, gonna do a little bit of intimidation there, but Jaedong will work out fairly quickly from the damage it took that it is indeed a fake. We have a Warp Prism though with a number of sentries here. This is particularly very dangerous for Jaedong. There is no defense here in the main, so if this Warp Prism can force field the ramp, these Zealots could start going to town in the main base, and this is one of the most dangerous Protoss attacks for a Zerg that is on pre-ultralist tech. There's actually very little to deal with this once that ramp gets force field. The Roach is going to try and make their way up here. The Sentry's sitting here now. Actually, the Sentry is not going to force field the ramp, so this Sentry is going to take a little bit of damage there. The Queen did manage to go down, but Hero unfortunately unable to use this drop as he intended. He really did need to force field the ramp before the Roaches can make it up. This Warp Prism still posing a great threat here. Going to be dropping the sentries on the low ground, abusing the fact that there's very little anti-air for our Zerg player currently, managing to wall off all of those Roaches, but Jaedong with more than enough units to hold us back for the time being. Going to be rebuilding some of those Queens, actually getting the Enduring Locust upgrade, so we may well even see Swarm Host come out in the not too distant future. We do actually have a Spire on the way, so Jaedong, lots of options here. Could go the Swarm Host, could go Mutalisk. Does look like we are going to see a Swarm Host. 5 on the way now, and we have Hero actually transitioning as Stargate tech, and this is a great choice for Hero, particularly with Jaedong's current tech choice. Things like Void Rays and Phoenix going to be very they're going to be able to do a lot of damage to these Swarm Hosts, going to be able to really mess with their lack of mobility, and there's currently nothing in the Zerg lineup except a few Queens that can shoot air, so Jaedong going to have to be very careful with how he plays this. Jaedong normally not a big fan of the Swarm Host, but we're seeing the use of them on this map, and I think that is a map-based composition choice. Heavy Rain is quite a small map, so you can move the Swarm Hosts either to this location or up here onto the high ground and potentially siege this third base quite easily. It does make them a lot more useful than on the larger maps where they can get caught out of position super easily. So got to be careful with those. Jaedong though going to be using them for the time being to defend the 4th base, and Jaedong's creep spread off the chart at the moment. 15-minute mark, it's well over 2/3 of the map currently, well 2/3 across the right hand side of the map. Big push coming from LiquidHero now, the Immortals and the Zealots moving out along the bottom flank, but as soon as they get on the creep here, they'll be very vulnerable to these swarm hosts. Jaedong going to reposition these. And if he rallies them correctly, now that he can see this Protoss force, it's going to be very hard for Hero to actually push on creep without any Colossus or High Templar. So we see the Swarm host going to be spawning out first wave. Phoenix going to see these move out, and that will be an indication for Hero that he needs to pull back. Roach is actually going to be doing a counterattack at Hero's 3rd base. Going to move straight in here. Is one cannon not going to be enough? First cannon goes down. Second cannon well positioned behind it. Mass recall on top is going to save the 3rd base. So clutch move there from Hero, going to be saving that 3rd base. Certainly wouldn't want to be losing that now, though. We actually have a warp in the main base. So Hero going at it again. The Hive Tech actually under threat at the moment. Spawning pool going down to these Zealots. They will in fact take that one down. Sentry here not actually doing a whole lot as of now. Hero going to be picking that back up. A few of these Zealots going to be quite sacrificial. The Spore Crawler taking a few shots, but unable to take out the Warp Prism. I think Jaedong would really love to get out a Corruptor or two just to force this Warp Prism away. In fact, we actually see Jaedong building Vipers at the moment. So Vipers in sync with the Swarm host, very dangerous. Protoss force trying to make their way down. This Queen actually unfortunately going to go down there out of position. Busy spreading creep. Doesn't realise that the Protoss army is literally all around her. Queen goes down very quickly, but Jaedong does have a surplus of queens at the moment. We have +3 ground weapons actually on the way for Protoss, which if we check out the upgrade, so it is +2 currently to +2, so melee versus missile attacks. Well, naturally Protoss upgrades to both melee and range, but given Jaedong's composition is almost entirely range attack at this point, it's effectively the same level of upgrades. No one yet electing to go for the armor upgrades. We have +1 armor on the way, and actually a melee upgrade for Jaedong as well. So Jaedong even dropping a 3rd Evo chamber, so getting very serious about these upgrades. Obviously doesn't want to get caught out behind the Protoss player. He's got to try and trade as efficiently as possible. Jaedong being careful to clear up some of these pylons that are placed across the map. But Hero's composition starting to look like the money Protoss death ball that we see in so many of these games. Observer here to spot the burrowed Swarm host. We have 2 Colossus. It's going to be the start of the forces that Hero needs to be able to advance. 3rd Colossus on the way down to meet up with his army, and a 4th one currently just popping out of the robot, I believe, and there it is. So we have 2 robotics facilities actually in play at the moment, and so 4 Colossus in play, another 2 to come. That's certainly the sort of numbers you need. Warp Prism continuing to be a real pest here. Queen's trying to focus it down, but unfortunately unable to get the angle they need. And he has to be so careful. This Hive Tech can be very vulnerable. Actually going to be producing those Corruptors now, and I think that's a great choice. Really end the Warp Prism harass and stop this before it can do any real damage to the main base. The Hive potentially very vulnerable. You can see Jaedong actually throwing out a lot more static defense than we're used to seeing. That's because of the lack of mobility of the Swarm host. If you're going to go a Swarm host route, you really do need to use some static defense to bolster the lack of mobility that the Swarm host has. Jaedong doing a great job of that, but these Stalkers just starting to clean up all the creep, clean up all the tumors along this flank, and actually all of the tumors down that central valley location. So these Stalkers look like they're going to undo a lot of Jaedong's hard work today. These Roaches are going to try and work their way in to pincer these Stalkers, and the blink is off cooldown for the moment, but in just a second that will be off cooldown, so we'll see if these Stalkers do in fact get pinned between these units. Look like they may actually make their way out of it. One Stalker goes down, second one gets picked up, and actually a bad blink on top of the Roach is going to cost a few more Stalkers their life. 5 Stalkers do go down, actually a few Void Rays joining here. We have 2 Void Rays in this army, a 3rd one in production, so it's actually looking like Hero going with the classic Void Ray Colossus build. I gotta say, I do like this composition, particularly against what Jaedong has in play. There are, if we check out the units tab, we can see there are 16 Swarm hosts, which is quite a lot of supply, almost 60 supply, along with a few Corruptors, but these Void Rays are going to be more than a match for the Corruptors, so Jaedong has to be super careful. If he loses the air battle, all of these ground units will be wiped out by the Void Ram. We actually have armies heading along opposing flanks. Jaedong's Queen here being picked off yet again. As Protoss army moving right into position to take this third base. Jaedong's Swarm Host unfortunately well out of position here. Going to have to beat a retreat to the third base. Can they make it before Hero can get his forces in position to attack this? It's going to be close. Looks like they will make it in time. Will Hero have the force he needs? Even got the High Templar mixed in now, so there's all of the tools that Hero needs to deal with the Swarm Host. Will it be enough? We have the Vipers here, potential for abductions, pulling those Colossus into play. We have a warp in the main base as well, so a lot of threats for Jaedong to deal with. Big blink in the main. Stalkers going to completely circumvent the Swarm Host defense. The Swarm Host making their way back up. The static defense here, buying Jaedong the few minutes that he needs, actually pulling that warp prism out of play and taking it down. Going to end the threat here as well as the sight to the high ground. So if Jaedong can force this out, it will in fact end the harass. The Stalkers trying to get out, but another bad blink actually costs Hero all of these Stalkers. The Stalkers do go down. That's a very bad exchange for Hero. Unable to do the damage in the main that you want to do. Managed to clean up some of the static defense, but if we check out the units lost tab, Hero starting to pay the price just a little bit. So unfortunately for Hero, a few bad blinks this game have cost him quite a lot of Stalkers. So not sure if it was just a misclick there or if he was actually trying to back up on the high ground. We can see Jaedong going to throw down a few creep tumors here, ensure that he doesn't suffer from being exploited in this location. Is a very vulnerable location. Looks like Jaedong actually going to counterattack here with the Roaches. And I'm not sure if he's intending to try and kill this base or if it's just to get the Protoss army out of position. We have the army moving down here and the Swarm Host moving up to potentially siege the third base. Jaedong throwing down a very aggressive fifth base here. And this fifth base is a very important location. You can actually, if Jaedong establishes the same static D here that he has in his main base, we'll be able to very effectively siege the Protoss third base. Also have to be very careful though, things like Colossus on the low ground is going to be able to make havoc for that drone line. This Warp Prism trying to make its way over does get cleaned up by the Corruptors very quickly. Two High Templars actually getting big storms off on those drone lines. Going to kill more than a few of those drones. One Roach here going to be a real pest. High Templars not wanting to storm a single Roach, but unfortunately, yep, going to morph the Archon there, and Jaedong's going to need a little bit more to deal with that. When that Archon pops out, going to be able to toast that Roach, very quickly. Second Roach might be enough to do it. The Spine Crawler almost burrowed out here, and it looks like the Spine Crawler will indeed take the Archon down. 7 kills, but does go down there. Swarm Host actually out of position. We do have Infestors for a Fungal. Can they throw out a Fungal enough to inhibit this Protoss army? There's so many Colossus here. 6 Colossus, 4 High Templars, so much burst damage. The Swarm Host may not actually be enough to deal with this. Nice Fungal growth catching all of the Void Rays. There's second Fungal indeed, catching them yet again, but the Colossus is just so much burst damage, doing no damage here to these Colossus, but the Void Rays unfortunately caught out of position by those fungal growths, going to get cleaned up by the Corruptors. And it looks like Hero's going to have to fall back yet again. We have a few Stalkers here to deal with those Corruptors, but the Locusts on the ground are going to make it very difficult for Hero to try and advance. And this is one of the things that people really struggle with against the Swarm Host, particularly on a map where Jaedong can defend so easily. We can see a massive bank built up for Jaedong, 5,000 minerals, 2,500 gas. This fifth base actually under siege for a nice Zealot warp in. LiquidHero being so active with these warp prisms, even though they're being taken out repeatedly. I think 3 warp prisms haven't gone down thus far. Hero's just doing such a great job of just continuing to be aggressive. It looks like the hatch will just go down. I'd love to see Jaedong get some static defense down there. Looks like an assimilator going to be picked off at the third base. And that's a great choice. So we do really need the gas. Big warp into the main. We have a lot of Zealots here and a lot of Stalkers as well. So potential to lose the Hive Tech now. Roaches trying to make their way in. These Stalkers actually taking some damage from the low ground. Infestors there almost getting caught by the Colossus. But right now, Hero's doing a great job of trying to exploit the lack of mobility. Unfortunately, nice Fungal Growth is going to catch both these Immortals on the creep, and one of them will go down to to those swarm hosts. So Jaedong just such good control here. Another warp prism though in the natural, actually putting the Great Spire under threat. Jaedong would love to get those Broodlords out, but it looks like these +3 Zealots may actually take it out. It looks like, oh, just going to be saved by those Spine Crawlers, but that Greater Spire very vulnerable to future warp-ins from warp prisms. Stalkers on the high ground going to be picking off this Spore Crawler, actually shutting down mine at this third base. Still a little bit of gas here, about 1,000 gas that could be mine. So Jaedong not really wanting to lose this base. Hit the warp prism back in these Zealots, going to be able to take out the Spire, and Jaedong has to protect these drones. Could potentially get in the way. The Zealots, 2 Zealots go down, but with 44 health, that even a transfuse coming down from the Queen to save it. More Zealots warped in the main base, but Jaedong doing a great job of defending with these roaches. If we check out the units lost, how is starting to widen and widen, with Hero having taken 22,000 to Jaedong's 14,000 units lost. Starting to see a lot of trouble for Hero. Hero really has to mix things up here. Does have the mothership core, so it's potentially going to be a very useful tool. But it has taken quite substantial damage already. This Corruptor Cloud, very dangerous. Corruptors themselves have +3 attacks, so they're going to be able to drop that mothership in probably 2 volleys, so here I have to be very careful with his positioning. Here we have a few Tempests on the way. I love this choice from here. Tempest's going to be what he needs to mix it up. But we're seeing exactly what I'd predicted with Jaedong positioned at this 5th base. Sitting here, Swarm Host able to do a lot of damage, threaten this 3rd base, which still has a decent amount of minerals and gas left. So here we're going to have to position his units to defend this. We have the Corruptors here actually going to yoink over the mothership core, trying to mass recall out, but the mothership goes down. Tempest here going to be able to drive those Corruptors away. We do have the finished Greater Spire, so potential to see Broodlords any time now, though I imagine we won't be seeing them while these Tempests are still in the air. Swarm Host going to be launching volley after volley of Locusts. Big Roach counterattack, and this is what Jaedong's so good at, these Roach counterattacks, but unfortunately the Protoss are all over the Zerg main base. These Archons going to be able to threaten these Corruptors, force them back, while the Stalkers just continue to hack away at this hive down to almost 2/3 health. Jaedong got to be very careful here, almost losing the spawning pool as well. Though unfortunately this 3rd base starting to look very exposed to the Swarm Host. Roaches coming up, going to take out the High Templar, and going to continue to keep this hive alive, but Hero continuing to put on a lot of pressure with these persistent Warp Prism counterattacks. So actually coming into the 30 minutes of this game, well and truly past the early and mid game stages. There's epic Protoss vs Zerg on our hands. Hero and Jaedong just constant back and forth. Even the Swarm Hosts tend to have a lengthening effect on the game, but I don't know. Most Swarm Host games seem very static and boring, but this particular game between Hero and Jaedong managing to keep both players well and truly on their toes. Constant warp-ins from Hero and the constant manoeuvring of the Swarm Host to try and deal damage where possible. Both players just doing the very best they can to try and gain any edge. These High Templars all caught out in front of the Locust, going to suffer a lot of damage there and be forced to storm. Though we have a massive Skytoss army forming here. We have 6 Void Rays already in play and 2 Tempests. A few Tempests getting picked off by those Vipers. Very sneaky Viper play. We have what is starting to be a very late game composition here for Jaedong. We have the body of Corruptors to defend the air. We have the Swarm Host to lay that siege of the ground base. We have plenty of Infestors to deal with things like the clustered Void Rays. So another Mothership core in play. It looks like Hero is going to attempt to move out here. He does need to do some damage here. The Cloak is one of the best things he has going for him. There is only actually one Overseer here, so if careful, Hero could well get a few seconds window of opportunity at the start of the next fight. Looks like this Warp Prism can make his way down here. There are 2 High Templar in here, so potential for a Storm Drop, but looks like a fight is brewing here in the middle of the map. We have the Colossus here able to siege this location. We have the Swarm Host just waiting on another spawn of the Locust, but unfortunately the Stealth Tempest just going to prove very irritating. A few Vipers here wanting to yoink over that Mothership core, but got to be so careful. These Tempests able to pick off the Vipers even at a distance. We have Jaedong here going to go in for the steal. Will he be able to get that Mothership core? Actually, a nice fungal thrown out there, but only going to catch a single High Templar, so a little bit of a waste there. Infestors getting blasted apart by these Tempests at every volley, and this is just so frustrating as a Zerg player to try and deal with. Invisible Tempests sitting at maximum range, even the contour of the maps working against Jaedong at present, he can't really send the Swarm Host Locust down the ramp as it's just too far to travel, the creep having been cleaned up already. No attempt to do it. We have an Infestor being pushed to his death by the Swarm Host, and oh no, it's a Sacrificial Infestor. Unluckiest Infestor in the world, going to get cleaned up by those Tempers, dropping a Fungal at the last minute, but Fungal's not going to do too much damage to those units. And this base just going to continue to take volley after volley, more than enough forces here to keep these Swarm Hosts at bay, and I think Hero's found just the right mix he needs to deal with this. Both our armies maxed out here. We have Jaedong wanting to throw out another thing, but every time he does it, he takes damage on the Infestor. Second Infestor blown apart there, and these are not cheap units to replace. The gas, very hard for a Zerg to just continue to throw away 150 gas at a time. Mothership Core actually mass recalling there, and that's a little bit of an interesting choice. He gets slightly out of position. We have Jaedong going to pull over that Colossus, but unfortunately unable to do the damage he needs. Feedback going down on the Vipers, actually going to clean up, do some damage to those Vipers, and looks like the Locust here trying to clean up the High Templar, but there's just too much burst damage in the form of these Colossus. Nice Roach counterattack at the 4th base. Jaedong going to actually get into the worker line here. Big Warp in the Zealots to try and counter it, but these Roaches going to clean those up very quickly. Trying to kite them in the mirror line. Great positioning from Jaedong. Only one Zealot can attack at a time. These Roaches just going to get maximum position. That's unfortunately for Hero, that's going to give Jaedong position in the middle of the map. He can now move into a position to siege this 3rd base. Well, what is Hero going to do? He's got 3 bases mined out and a 4th base that's well and truly on the way. It's getting to the point Hero does need to take another base, but Hero's potential 5th base is currently being babysat by Roach, and there's not too many locations left that Hero can expand safely. Jaedong going to be dropping creep all over another potential base here, and another big Roach counterattack. So Jaedong just abusing his bank here, morphing big units of Roaches and just trying to do damage wherever possible to the economy of Hero. At the Swarm Host moving into position here. Unfortunately for Hero, Jaedong, they're well and truly out of range of this 4th base, but Hero even bringing in a few Oracles, so going to be using his Oracles to clean up the drone line. These do damage so quickly, actually throwing down a Reveal, and that's an interesting choice. Going to give Hero the side he needs. His Locust going to be expiring there, and Hero is just going to continue to exploit exactly what we were talking about. Got a High Templar here, potentially throw down some Storms, and it's just so hard for a Zerg player to try and engage him. Massive group of Tempest, gonna have to yoink across those Oracles. Oracles do go down, but unfortunately for Jaedong, 5th base going down as well, so Jaedong has to decide how is he going to deal with these. The Swarm Host tying up a lot of his supply here, almost 60 supply tied up in these Swarm Hosts, and they're not currently actually doing anything. The Colossus are ensuring that they don't actually make it into play, and unfortunately they're doing little more than tie up supplies. Infestors continuing to take damage from the Tempest, and the 5th base well and truly cleaned up, all but this static defense. So how does Hero engage here? Looks like he's going to take the 5th base nice and safely behind his position in the middle of the field. Just has to be so careful that he doesn't give away this location. Gonna yoink over both the Tempest and the Oracle, clean those up. Nice move from the Jaedong there. Control just absolutely everything in this battle. If either of these armies gets out of position for a moment, it will allow the opposing army to just roll straight over the top. So how is what Hero really needs to decide is how is he going to close out this game. His 4th base now completely mined out. 5th base going down now, but unfortunately it's only just starting to mine. He's completely mined out. Looks like Hero's going to try and push his way here. Swarm Host in position along with these Corruptors. Looks like we're both players trying to jockey for the crucial position in this final battle, but unfortunately for both our players, the Mothership Core just completely protecting this Protoss army. Is taking no damage from these Swarm Hosts, and Jaedong has to be just a little bit frustrated here that he's unable to do the damage he'd like to do. Another feedback going down on the Vipers, going to take out one of those Vipers. Vipers do have more energy than they do have health, so a feedback on a full energy Viper will insta-kill it. Looks like Jaedong going to be throwing down another hive here. It looks like he did lose the Greater Spire at his natural location, so very frustrating for Jaedong. His +3 armor was delayed by that Spire being sniped. nice fungals from Jaedong, very important here. Not only are they pinning this Protoss force in position, but they're actually also revealing units that get hidden by the mothership. So they are forming two important functions here. Infestation pit going down, that's pretty important for Jaedong. Not going to be able to produce any more infestors, but these looks like that battle did actually go quite well for Jaedong. Did lose all of his tech structures. Almost lost the second spire with that upgrade, but just managing to save that. If only Hero could have focused that down, he would have kept the upgrade advantage for some time to come, and Jaedong wouldn't have been able to produce any more corruptors. But fortunately for Jaedong, was able to keep that alive, along with his hopes to continue pushing this Zerg army forward, as without those corruptors and infestors, he is very vulnerable to this Protoss force. He does drastically outnumber Hero, and unfortunately for Hero, he is suffering from the effects of that bank that Jaedong have built up. We have a massive roach counterattack that's pushing through. That's going to put pressure on Hero. He can't afford to abandon this 5th base. It's the only mining base he has, but Jaedong just putting a lot of pressure on with these roaches, and as soon as Hero moves away, Swarmhost's going to be sieging this 5th base. So unfortunately for Hero, he has to decide just when to pull back, and if he makes the wrong timing decision, it looks like Jaedong will in fact be able to sweep through his main base. So very tough decisions here for Hero. Got to either engage these swarm hosts and take them out, or fall back to try and defend his production. And unfortunately, big storm there, actually going to storm the heck out of his own probes. We do see massive amount of workers being killed on both sides, actually 73 each. I have a feeling that a lot of those kills actually caused by the High Templar there. Storming on the low health workers did manage to take most of them out. Hero went from being 40 saturation to 8, so I think the storm there, unfortunately, being baited out by the corruptors and doing so much damage to Jaedong. Jaedong actually pulling back before he pushed into the main. I think these 3 Void Rays were more than enough to force Jaedong back. Didn't want to sacrifice those roaches just yet, as he doesn't have quite the bank that he would like to have at this point. Would like to have a little bit more Vespene in the bank, but unfortunately losing this base earlier and not going back to mining has really cut into his Vespene production. Jaedong's static defense being cleaned up yet again at this 5th base. Tempest's going to start the siege again. Even the Colossus is going to join in the fight here. Unfortunately, that does leave the 5th base completely exposed for Hero, and the one last spawning of Locust is going to take that base out. Fortunately for Hero, was able to take out Jaedong's 5th base as well, so right now neither of our players has a mining base. Well, actually Jaedong mining slightly out of this base, crucially mining gas, just a little bit of minerals being mined, and Hero in dire straits here is almost having his supply doubled by Jaedong here. And unfortunately Jaedong just managing to trade super efficiently, so 51,000 resources lost to 35, so between our two players almost 100,000 resources lost over the course of this epic 45-minute game. But it looks like Jaedong has managed to get the upper hand here, taking that favourable engagement here at the 3rd base did really shoot Jaedong forward into a very dominant position. These roaches breaking through into the main, and it looks like Jaedong going for the fight here. Storm doing massive damage to these corruptors. To see them taking so much damage, forced back by the Tempest and taking damage from them as well. The Infestor's going to throw down a fungal that will reveal these units. Jaedong going to be forced back, unfortunately. His Corruptor's taking just too much damage, can't afford to lose them. That Oracle going to reveal the Corruptors. They are so crucial to Jaedong's plan. If he loses the air fight, he will still lose the game. Although the air forces of Hero have been pinned quite significantly. These roaches just actually going to be base racing Hero, but unfortunately Hero unable to commit here. Using these Tempers to clean up that last mining base. We have neither of our players are mining here. We have a almost 30 lava just sitting there banked up for Jaedong, ready to be put to use. But unfortunately Hero just finding it very hard to advance into the face of all the static defense. Going to take down the Spine Crawler, but is it going to be enough? Unfortunately for Jaedong, rallying those Locusts to the wrong location. They could have potentially done a little bit of damage here, though most of the ground forces are being protected by this mothership. the roaches just going to town inside Hero's base, and this is the benefit of Swarm Hosts. Their drawback is their immobility, but the benefit is they can just keep your opponent's army tied up so long while these counterattacks just do massive damage. I think, unfortunately for Hero, the writing may be on the wall this game. I don't like to call it early, but we are seeing Hero with his supply doubled. He's trying to find an angle here, something he can use to his advantage, but Jaedong's composition here on Heavy Rain just proving to be a little bit more than Hero can handle. Excellent positioning for these Swarm Hosts. He hasn't been caught out once with them. Managed to keep them all in play. I don't think he's actually lost a Swarm Host over the course of this game. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen any be taken out. It's just this constant back and forward positioning just being used to do to maximum effect here. And Hero does look like he's protected his base, but to what end? We still have a few burrowed roaches here, and there's currently no safe base locations for Jaedong. For Hero. I think Jaedong knows this. He's got his roaches buried across the map at these locations. Has a simulator spotting one, roach sitting here spotting the other, and he's taken the only other remaining base. So excellent choices from Jaedong. He knows this is an efficiency game now, knows Hero can't mine. All he has to do is get one favourable engagement, and Hero actually losing his last Nexus, so going to be revealed, and I think Hero going to be forced to commit, going to try and take down this last base, but how will he go here? I think unfortunately Hero just a few units shy of what he needs. 150 supply to 280, and I think that Hero just going to try and engage here. The Viper pulling that Mothership core across, and a second of Duck going to keep it locked there in front of the Corruptors. And once that goes down, these ground units going to be very vulnerable to the Swarm Host. Infestor's going to continue to lock the Stalkers in play, and unfortunately for Hero, all these units now taking massive damage. The Templars throughout the storms will then die. A few more. Fungal's going to lock this group in play, and the Colossus now getting mopped up by the Corruptors. There it is, Hero GGing out of this epic 50-minute game. Now I know Swarm Host not people's favourite unit, but Zerg players out there, if you're using Swarm Hosts and you're struggling to win games with them, look at what Jaedong did in this game. The positioning of the Swarm Host, it wasn't just a default choice. We don't see him use them on any other map virtually, only use them in this matchup based on the map, based on the limited travel routes, and just his positioning absolutely phenomenal. But Hero almost pulling through there. Some of that Warp Prism harass was just absolutely epic from Hero. Managed to keep the perpetual pressure on Jaedong. Unfortunately, Jaedong just having the number does manage to equalize this series. So going to be 2-all and going to force it into game number 5. Which of these players going to progress through the finals and $10,000? For your chance to find out, subscribe here to Aussie StarCraft. We have the 5th game coming up just after this, so don't tune out, guys. We'll catch you all in the next cast.